go to the live thing. Okay, this is broadcasting. Ready? Okay,
Ready whenever.
so we are live once again on YouTube, and we may be only talking to ourselves right now, but that's okay. Sean, if you just want to take over a sec while I work out the logistics, that'd be fantastic. Thanks.
Okay, my name is Sean. Welcome to Universal Communication. This is our second post. Not sure if we've had any listeners or not. Not sure really if we have a title for this yet. But we have 2 or 3 other people who will be with us over the course of this conversation. And we invite people to join us on Discord. Just search Universal Communication and join the open chat voice channel. And if you have something to say, we can move you into the stream chat where you will be joining us.
It's definitely picking up your voice. Just a reference. Stuart, can you talk, please, just so I can hear you, and then I'll be able to turn
Yeah.
it up. Just
Yes.
tell us who you are and
Well, good evening, everybody. If you are listening out there, I'm Stuart, and as Sean said, we'd like to hear what you're doing, and we'll tell you what we're doing to deal with this crisis, because we can all share different ways how we can get along and do different things, and maybe we'll inspire someone else to go, yeah, I was bored, but you've just given me an idea, I'm going to try. So try and inspire one another while we're all in our houses.
Okay, so yeah, it's definitely picking you up as well. So we've definitely managed to fix the problem from before, since we're picking everybody up, which is fantastic. So my name is David, and I also live in the UK. We're just trying to bring hope really to the world right now, and I mean literally to the world right now. This is our second post, and obviously we're all still dealing with this crisis, and trying to just do our best. I mean, I'm actually moved by the worldwide outreach, the compassion that's going on around the world right now. People that are in low-paid jobs, people that haven't been really cared for in the past, 200 odd years, really, to put it bluntly, Sean. People that have been downtrodden by the highest of society, thinking, well, your job doesn't mean too much, and we won't pay you a great deal. And right now, I think the people that are putting their lives on the line are probably worth more than the Queen of England. They're probably worth more than the entire Pope and his wealth, and they're probably worth more right now than any aristocratic fool who has caused the problem. I know I'm a bit outspoken, but that unfortunately is the way it is. I just want to praise our workers around the world. That's what I want to say.
I'm in complete agreement with you, Dave. Not only on the fact that sharing strong opinions makes you neither right or wrong. You're just strong in your own opinions, and not you personally, anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say sometimes a strong opinion has to be said, because it can be right, and when people say a strong opinion, it wakes other people up and makes them think, well, actually, you've got a point there, and this should be so, and what you just said there is right, So, yeah, sometimes it's needed.
Absolutely. We are, of course, one member down at the moment, which is our friend Heather, who also is in Illinois with where Sean is. But obviously, Heather will be back with us soon. She's just dealing with a family crisis, and that's the way it is at these times. We still have our families to deal with and our children to love, and to get on with this and deal with it. But I think the most important point is the movement of people, and that's what I want to say, really. Yeah.
we're getting over the hump in this, not necessarily in a medical sense, but in the fact that people are beginning to realize that it's not okay to be selfish anymore. And we saw this spike a week after America was basically shut down for all intents and purposes. We had people going to large change. Yeah, I can't speak today. Large chain grocery stores and literally buying 50, 100 rolls of toilet paper at a time. I don't know about any potential listeners, but I can't see going through 100 rolls of toilet paper in 5 years. That's insanity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's happened all over the world. Sorry, Stuart, you go ahead.
Go on.
No,
I think that if there is any potential listener out there that has done this, maybe you should consider giving your neighbours some, helping. Go on.
Well, no, Stuart, that's not practical at this time, I'm afraid. I mean, that may be a good gesture, but right now the world's on the brink, and you're not even allowed to visit. Certainly in England, we're not even allowed to visit our neighbour right now. And my advice to anybody who's hoarding anything is, just think about your fellow man, because if you get cut short, you're going to feel it. And that's the reality.
Well, the alternative is definitely don't buy any more.
Absolutely.
Use what you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. We can only do our best, and that's literally all we can do. And in saying that, we all in the same dilemma.
Yeah, that's about the long and short of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing about this coronavirus that showed us we're all equal. None of us are exempt from it. Right the way from kings, queens, popes, right the way down to the normal person on the street. Not that we can go out in the street anymore, but that's another matter.
Well, I think it's also important to point out that what the world is facing right now is no discriminator of status, because the wealthy, the powerful, and the elite are being struck just as much by this as your everyday Joe Plumber.
I think that's the irony of this, and as I say, the world has been a very, very, very selfish place for the last so many years. I mean, let's just put this in a nutshell. So people are moaning because people are stealing toilet rolls. Well, hang on a minute. Haven't we been stealing money from people for generations? Haven't we been stealing, tax money for different things and not? Why are we in this mess? Because nothing's been put into the infrastructure in the first place. So that's, by definition, where does that go? If a governor of Texas or a politician of Great Britain puts money in his pocket to buy a second home, is that not the same as all them toilet rolls right now?
I can see the comparison.
Yeah, and thinking about it, we've been told that in times of crisis, they have emergency funds. And that's why our taxes go in partly for that. Some of it gets tucked away. Well, why are we then having to go and beg to the Federal Reserve if we've got emergency funds? What's happened all to these funds?
That's an American question, but yes, because we don't have
it. Really is. And it's because America has for a long time run on the presumption that everything is just going to be hunky-dory forever.
That's a good, that's a good
Well,
way of putting that. Yeah.
got bad news for you. It's not hunky-dory right
Oh,
now.
yeah,
There are
exactly.
a lot of people who can't go to work. And unfortunately, most of the people who can't go to work are the ones who are working minimum wage jobs to support themselves, their families. I think one of the most ironic things about America is that we've lost some of the basic skills we had when our ancestors came to this country. And people are now sitting in drive-through lines at McDonald's for half an hour to get food that they could just as easily be preparing at home.
Oh, that's very very true. Yeah. See, I want to say, I just want to say this to America: it hasn't hit you yet. It hasn't arrived yet. Believe me. I went out this morning to do shopping in England, and our stores. Okay, so one person now is allowed out to do the shopping in a store, a local food store, and that one person has to stand 6 feet away from anyone else who's also queuing. There are no more than 50 people in a store at a time, and you're limited to two items per two of a specific item per thing. So you obviously, when you're going around, you can't buy four of the same cheese, you can't buy four of the same toilet roll, you can't buy four of the same bread. You have to mix and match it a bit, and the diversity forces people. But that hasn't happened in America yet, and when it does, you guys are going to realize that this wonderful American dream is a worldwide dream. Right? It's not just an American dream; it's a worldwide dream. And right now, we're all on the same playing field. We're all on the same level. We all have the same needs, the same problems. Every man.
Well, ultimately, that all comes down to the construct of law, and the law is there, at least in America, to provide us freedom.
Yeah.
But it hinges on the point that when a personal freedom infringes upon another person's personal freedom, you're going to have some backlash, not only from that other person, but from whatever level of government can intervene.
Absolutely.
On an English front, because I've said the Federal Reserve for the American side of things, but on the English front, we've been a member up until the end of last year of the EU. And now that we're not, the EU has decided, in their infinite wisdom, remembering that we were one of the biggest contributors of money, to downgrade our credit rating.
I don't think that matters right now, Stuart, since the credit rating of Europe's just gone anyway, by definition.
Well, I know it has, but the point I'm making is it's this kind of greed that has not helped to be ready for crises like this.
Yep.
Well, and that's part of the problem right there, is that there are so many people out there seeking after money as an idol. I realize that in ancient Egyptian times, the important people were actually buried with their personal belongings.
Mm-hmm.
But what good does your money do you if you're dead?
Absolutely, yeah.
And in the time of crisis that we're facing, who's to say when you will die? You could be the richest person in America, and be dead in a week's time from COVID-19.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
At the moment, our Prime Minister here in England is, in the UK, I should say, is self-quarantining because he has got COVID-19.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that goes to show nobody's immune. Just because you got money doesn't make you immune. Um,
No.
you know, as I said before, right now, it's not how much you've got that's going to save you. You might have 20 houses, you might have one house, you might have, barely little any food on the table. What's going to save us right now is the ability to stick together as one humanity, knowing that we've all got the same needs, the same problems, and the same issue, which is Corona. But in hope, we can stand together and we can build a better world. I'm interested in what world we're going to have when this is over. We are going to survive this, right, guys?
Yes.
We are going to get through this. So I'm more concerned in what does hope look like when we get out to the other side? Because the trillions and trillions of debt that's going to be, are we just going to enslave ourselves to pay back that debt when all we've done is save our own lives?
Yeah, or are we going to learn the lessons that greed is not the way to go?
It's a good question. This is not the first pandemic that the known world has ever seen.
Exactly.
We could talk about the plagues of Europe during the Middle and Medieval eras.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And gross amounts of people died due to that. Now, granted, they didn't have as detailed an understanding of medicine as what we do now. I mean, we're talking about the days in which trepanning was still a common practice.
Yeah.
But even in those times when cities were decimated, there was always a remnant, and the world is even more populated now than it was before those pandemics struck.
Yeah.
But we quickly forget the importance of the lesson that these pandemics are sent to teach us, or simply don't grasp the message at all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have to remember that we got ourselves, collectively, we got ourselves into this, struggle, because we collectively were more interested in how many cars we had in the driveway than we were about our health should something like this manifest. I think
And about the people's health as well, because I know here in the UK we've got the NHS, but in America, I've heard stories from America where the first thing they do when the ambulance turns up is look for your medical insurance, and if you haven't got it, they'll leave you on the pavement. I mean, that's terrible.
I don't know how true that. I don't know how true that is, but only
it's not quite true, but they'll still expect you to pay them for taking you to the hospital.
Yeah.
Even if no other service than transportation was provided, you can expect a pretty hefty bill from emergency medical services. And there are a lot of people out there who are in medical debt up to their asses.
Yeah.
I should know because prior to being in my financial situation, which I don't choose to disclose, I'm not a wealthy man. Prior to being in my current financial situation, I was probably going to the emergency room at least once a month. And, you want to talk about the debt that I owed to the emergency medical services. It paled in comparison to what I owed to the hospitals that treated me.
And, Sean, again, I mean, there are going to be trillions of people, thousands of people. I mean, let's just put this in a nutshell to some extent. There's 156,931 confirmed cases as I speak right now in the US alone. And yes, so many of them have recovered, and yes, so many of them have died. But the bill should be just written off. You can't expect people to be enslaved with a debt for the sake of their own care in a crisis like this. Otherwise, you're pretty guilty of genocide, I would say. I mean, it's a pretty strong argument, but I would certainly say you're guilty of genocide if you're thinking about how many dollar signs you're going to get back.
Well, I would agree with you.
Because I mean, what do you price
on
life?
that as well?
Yeah, I mean, what do you price on life? That's the way it goes. So I think hope is building a better world. Hope is building a far better world.
Yes. May we learn from these lessons and have a world that's based on hope, compassion, caring. Sod the dollar signs or the pound signs or the yen or whatever the currency is. Life comes first and people come first.
I mean,
so,
yeah, go ahead. I mean, I want to say something as well about the mechanics of things, because yes, people are now going to be shouting when they hear this. Well, what an idiot those are. We need money to survive. Yes, we do, but there is such thing as fragmented banking, which already exists in the system. And the truth is that, as I had an argument with my son, who's studying sociology and the mechanics of life and law and stuff, he's studying this whole facet. And I had a discussion with him and said, look, the reality is that if you could have a system where people get paid a certain amount, and anything above that system could be put into a kitty somewhere for crises like this. It can be put into building a better health service. You might call it a tax, but then wait a minute. Is a person on the street right now who is cleaning our streets worth more than a doctor who is treating the sick? Right now, I'm going to tell you that if neither of those are in play, we are in deep trouble. All right?
Yep. And I will tell you something else. There were times when I was employed by temporary services, and I spent one day working at the back end of a garbage hauler, and that was all I could handle. My hats are off to the men and women who do that on a daily basis, especially in this time. It's not an easy job. It's a dirty job. It's a smelly job. I would think that at the end of the day, if I worked that, I would probably need at least 2 hours worth of showering to get a sense of cleanliness to myself.
And right now in COVID-19, that must be pretty horrific for them.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to be in the garbage.
I understand completely. I used to work in a kitchen where there'd be like 250 people at one side and 50 people at the other side. That's each restaurant. And I'd have to clean up after the chefs that really didn't care. They just made a mess everywhere. I was always the last out. If I was on the night shift, I was always last out, and I'd be getting out way beyond what my hours were meant to be, and I'd get the head chef next day going, "You were a bit late," so I stopped putting the true time down because
We
I was worried I'd lose my job.
when we get
Um,
when we get through. Sorry, Stuart, to cut you short there. You got a point straight away. Like, and when we get through this, when we have to make sure we respect everybody in our society. Take the homeless right now, Sean, Stuart.
Oh, completely.
So
Yeah.
right now they're off the streets to protect them from the COVID, and they're being placed into hotels in luxury they have not experienced for maybe a year, 2 years, or whatever. Okay, are we just going to throw them back on the street when COVID's over?
Hmm.
we
I,
should
I
not.
I would hate to say it, but in America, I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Well, then if
I,
that's
I think it would happen over here and all if the people at the top have
well,
their
then
way. It's
well then I'll make this call because I'm radical enough to say to any politician who gets to hear this, if you dare so much do that, you are guilty of genocide, beyond any question.
oh yeah,
Because you have literally saved people to look good when in reality you don't care for those people at all, and
Yeah.
you don't care for their well-being in the future. And the truth is that had there been enough housing, had there been enough support, had the system be slightly different in the way that it works with the mechanics, those people wouldn't be on the streets in the first place, and we wouldn't be having this discussion. I'm happy to say that.
I would.
I'd like to say something on the housing side of things. And if you're going to say yes, but we haven't got, we're struggling to find spaces to build housing because of people protesting about this or that, there's plenty of old relic buildings that could be knocked down and rebuilt into flats. The rich people that own that don't need it.
Okay, Sean,
We
you were going to say
You know, I realize that this is a time of economic hardship, not only for individual citizens who are out of work due to the pandemic, who can't interact with each other because of the pandemic, hell, who are limited in the amount of time that they can spend in the store because of the pandemic. And I praise you all.
Sorry, yep, carry on.
And usually I'm fairly critical of the government, and I don't feel that the American government's measures are as adequate as what they should be. But I have to say, every little bit of help is good, regardless of where you live, what you do, how you do it,
Yep.
how much money you make.
Yep. You know, it's a funny world we live in. It really is a funny world we live in, and that's kind of strange right now because that's.
Stopping this
Sorry, carry on.
stopping this depends not only on curing people who are in the hospital, but alleviating the suffering of those who have tested positive for the coronavirus but are only showing mild symptoms. In America, the pharmaceutical industry tends to be a very greedy business. I urge all of the executives to dedicate charity money to the development of immunology study of coronavirus, figuring out a plan for palliative care for people who are currently suffering from COVID-19. You know, I hear a lot of people saying, when are they going to come up with a vaccine? Well, the vaccine won't save your life if you've already got it. we need to figure out how to treat it too.
Yeah, I mean that's it exactly, and how to avoid it next time. I mean, look, wait a minute. We have had plague in many centuries before, you know. So I mean,
Yeah.
why are we not prepared for such thing right now?
Dave, am I too loud?
No, you're perfectly fine, Sean.
Can you turn up your microphone a little bit, because you are very quiet in the conversation.
I'm quiet in the conversation.
That's better.
Okay, yeah, no, I switched it off there for a moment. If you right, so I need to say that again. What I was saying. Yeah, I do.
Go for it.
So the thing is, we need to just concentrate on the here and now and how we're going to get through this, and that's the point. And you know, right now we have people putting their lives on the line, you know, for hope. And there are people putting their lives on the line for hope, and we need to remember that those people, you know, in years to come, we don't know the numbers yet as to everybody who's died. The numbers are all over the places. They come in and everybody's registering all over the world. But I just want you to think about every memorial you've ever been to for World War I or World War II or Civil War or whatever. Think about every reef you've ever laid for those people. Because right now, when this is finished, you're going to be laying reefs for people. And then we have to think about what we're going to learn from that when this is over. You know? I mean,
I'd like to say something on that point.
You can. Go on, yeah.
This is a message to both people of faith and to those who are unbelievers or not quite sure where they sit. If you are a person of faith, pray. Don't just pray for you. Don't just pray for your family. Pray for the sake of humanity, because it's a time that calls for measures like this. If you are faithless, take what you can and dedicate it to the betterment of the world's society.
Absolutely. Stuart, what do you think about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I mean, oh, sorry, my brain's just gone blank for a moment. Talk while my brain comes back. Sorry.
That bad, is it really? I mean, taking you by storm, is it?
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing.
It's like a dream, right?
Yeah, just a bit. It's who would have thought any of us would be living this?
It is an irony. It is an irony of it.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, you're right.
Sorry,
back there?
people.
Okay.
Yeah, I just smoked too much.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, Stu, just elaborate on that, because it's a point. Everybody's feeling that, right? Like it hasn't got to America yet, because they're not in the lockdown we're living in, right? And when we looked at Italy, we kind of you know,
Exactly. About a month ago, we're just sort of, oh yeah, well it's over there. It's not very nice, but you know, hopefully it'll be under control. Now, bang, it's in front of us, and each day's changing. New rules are coming out. Our old way of living is definitely not what it was, and you know, my hat's off to all those frontline workers who are out there risking their lives for us. Think about that, for all of us.
Yeah.
Sing praises to them.
Yeah. You know, and at the same time, there's people at home who are trying to cope with having their kids at home, not at school, trying to deal with different age groups. I mean, Heather, who isn't here right now, she's got a family of 5, all different ages, and wow, hats off to her. She's doing a marvelous job, and all the other parents out there, because when the kids get bored, you end up with, well, you know what it's like.
I know what it's like. Yeah, believe me, I know what it's like. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I've got two teenagers here. We all live in our separate rooms, if you like, to avoid to go with the sort of meter rule. I mean, we interact. We have phones and we sort of interact in our own house, but we've kind of made this rule where we all sit in our little bedrooms or whatever, and we're going to make dinner. If we make dinner together, we kind of, okay, whose turn is it? Or, is everyone all right? Nobody's coughing, and it's kind of funny in that way. It brings a bit of humor to us, where we just mock and make some jokes between us. A little like James Bond, really. I mean, everybody's seen some of the memes that have gone around. I'm guessing. I'm gonna see if I can put one up here just to bring a bit of humor in a situation. So they just give me a sec, but yeah, I mean, here we go. I'm gonna see if I can post this in here. Okay, so for anyone who's going to see this on the YouTube, so this is a kind of funny thing that the boys and I put together. Before COVID-19, the squirrel says, "This is my space, keep away." And after COVID-19, he says, "I said 6 feet, or I'll blow your nuts to Pittsburgh." I mean, it just brings some humor to the situation of, turmoil. And that's what we need right now, is that kind of feel, really.
Well, there's something to be said about not letting fear lord over you, though.
Yes, exactly.
yeah,
This is certainly the greatest adversity that I've ever seen in my lifetime that exists just outside of my condition. I've got a lot of medical problems. I've been to the hospital so many times that I can't count. But it hurts me to hear that tens to hundreds of people from my individual state alone are dying on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I grieve more for those people and for their families than I ever have for the times that I was either being treated in hospital or that I was visiting someone who was being treated in hospital.
Yeah, totally get that.
here's something that must be considered. Going back to what Dave was saying about after we've got by this, and we're mixing in what you've just said, Sean, because after we've got past this, there is another thing that needs to be considered, and people need to reach out with their heart and help. There will be people who know people who have died. They will need, help to cope with that. There will be people who have lost their parents, young children that, and don't have anyone anymore. So that's got to be thought about and
Stuart,
considered. Yeah.
look at the flip side of that coin. There are going to be parents who have lost their young children, too.
I was going to go there as well.
And I realize that grief is a natural part of life. If you don't believe it, then you're an idiot. But I think the important point to drive home with this fact is there's a lot of grief in the world right now, and that no one should be adding to the stockpile that we already have.
Agreed.
Absolutely, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, afterwards, we need to figure out how we're going to relieve that. Relieve that grief from being there. Yeah, just something to think about for now.
Well, I mean, the truth is, you say relieve. I mean, it's going to go on for a long time. People who go into war environments, soldiers who are trained, even the soldiers are going to be traumatized. When soldiers went into Vietnam, as an example, some of those are still suffering with. I mean, the veterans that are left now, but they'll know that they're still suffering with some of the trauma from that. And the ones that go into
here in America,
go on, carry on.
Here in America, we've even coined a term for it. We call it post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes, exactly. Here too.
Have that term as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we have soldiers that went out to Iraq, obviously, like yourselves, and we also had the Falkland Islands. We've got soldiers with the same position.
Yeah. So we have to remember that we all are going to be in a situation whereby we really have to consider the fact that people are going to be traumatized. The people on the front line are going to be traumatized by this. All right. So they're getting us through it right now with such power and strength and hope and vigor. With every positive word you can dream up, these people, doctors, nurses, cleaners, anyone who's working. Excuse me. There you go. Look at that. Anyone who's working in these environments, they are inundated with the whole scenario around them. So they are going to come out of this with a very traumatized mind. No society is going to be able to click their fingers and say, yeah, same pay, everyone back to work. It's not going to.
No, exactly. We've got
exactly. Imagine the hardship that an average doctor has to give, or that an average doctor takes on when he has to deliver to a family that their sick or injured family member didn't make it through, and multiply that 100-fold every day.
Yeah.
It leads me to a question, though. I really need to know this. Is the British government dispatching military doctors and nurses due to the overwhelming need in the NHS system?
There is a military response, and not only are there now military involved, there's also people come out of retirement to be involved.
That's beautiful.
So we've literally stepped up the effort. My concern, really, and I don't like to be pessimistic, but I'm going to really seriously bring this home. Is Boris Johnson, if he recovers, bless him, he's got it as well, and that might be a good thing because it might help him understand, I hope, to some extent, the point of what I'm about to say. But, are we going to talk, when this is all over, are we going to say, right, the bill is, 90 trillion pounds, trillion, billion, gillion, no matter what the figure is, and all of you are going to pay that back, so we're going to increase austerity, drive it through the roof for the next 500 years. Are we seriously going to do that? Because if we are, we need to consider how much each one of us is worth. And if it's worth someone to have a pay rise of $1,000 here, or a pay rise of £1 there, and we need to seriously think about everyone in society. Because we are a team effort, and without that team effort, we ain't going anywhere. That's all I want.
Exactly. As we've already said, from the bottom to the top, we're just as important. If if the street cleaner doesn't clean the road, we get rats, we get disease, we get possibly even the plague and things like that.
And if the doctor doesn't treat that, then we've equally got a problem.
Exactly.
My hat. Go ahead, Stuart.
That they save lives at one end of the scale, and the street cleaner saves lives at the other end of the scale, whether they realise it or not. Go on, Sean.
I just want to say that my hat goes off to the medical professionals who are working double and even triple shifts to respond to the need that is in the world right now. There are people sleeping in hospitals, and it's not because they've been admitted for injury or illness. It's because they are our essential medical infrastructure, and not only are they having a hard time treating the influx of patients, but a lot of hospitals are requiring them to be there to deal with this epidemic.
Yes,
yeah.
correct.
Yes.
The longest I've ever worked in one day was about 14 hours, and that takes a toll, even in a simple job, which was what I was doing at the time. I didn't need to put a whole lot of focus on it. I was in food service and, just rushing through the busy periods. But 14 hours a day will take a toll on anyone, especially when they're not able to take their normal days off because there's a demand they have to meet.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the point, Sean.
Yeah.
I would also urge all the medical supply companies of the world to bring their workers back in so that we can have all of the personal protective equipment that we need. Not just my state, not just my nation, all the healthcare workers of the world need this equipment.
I'm going to put something else in the equation in relevance to that, okay?
Go ahead.
There are war-torn countries like Syria, Sudan, and they have to deal with this crisis too. We, first world countries, are guilty as charged for not helping in the past, for not intervening in the past, for not protecting in the past, and whatever the position of that may be. I mean, we know we had an empire and everything else, so this is where I'm coming from, particularly being English. And we have now, we are guilty that those countries that were once part of our empire and still part of our Commonwealth, to some degree, haven't done more to help those war-torn countries.
And I want to say something speaking from my spiritual background, simply for the fact that it comes from what I have taken in the most of. This is not a time where we can count on the churches of the world, the mosques, the synagogues, the temples. We can't depend on them to foot the bill for all the medical treatment that second and third world countries need. Simply for the fact that due to the faithlessness of the world, that money isn't in their coffers. They can't give it out because they don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. That's very, very true.
I think while we're talking about money and where money should come from to help, provide for this crisis. Large corporations, let's say Microsoft, for instance, why aren't they, if they're not already, putting their hand in their pocket and saying, these are the people that made us, so now we are going to help them?
Okay, I just want to break this up with a bit of fun once again. I'm sorry, we're bringing hope and we're, whatever. But I just want to post something now that is a real irony of our modern times. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, if you were laying down, you were considered a lazy bastard. Excuse my language. But if you are laying down now, in 2020, you're considered a responsible adult. So I just want to say to everyone at home right now, thank you for the glorious effort of what we are doing in the irony of our past.
And a lifesaver, because you're not going outside.
Yeah, just want to thank everybody for that. And also, we're doing our bit right now by not being out on the streets to overwhelm the NHS, as Boris puts it. So everyone who's at home right now, lounging around like a couch potato, you're still doing your job, all right? And that's important as the people on the front line who are helping everyone out there who's suffering. And I just want to put that out there.
On a completely separate topic, I would like to welcome the fourth regular speaker on our show. If you would like to chime in, introduce yourself, say a little bit about you, we'd be glad to hear from you.
Are you around, Heather? Are you still busy?
I'm here. Oh, hey, everybody. I'm Heather. I just wanted to say one thing because I noticed that everybody in the countries are thanking the front end workers, the front line workers. I want to say thank you too. But I also want to thank the people that are running the grocery stores, the truck drivers, the people that are getting the food from one place to another. You guys are just as important. Without you, we would not be fed. We would not have food on our table.
Yep.
And
She's
thank you again.
absolutely right.
Absolutely correct.
Absolutely right. Heather, just keep going with that message. That's an excellent message. Just go for it. Feed it.
It's them that if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't eat. The front end workers wouldn't eat. We wouldn't eat. Nobody would be here because we'd all starve to death.
Yep.
Exactly.
The people that makes the toilet papers, the people that make our factory workers that are out there putting their lives on the line, going to work every day to make the masks, to do this, to do that, so that we essentially have what we need. I want to thank them all.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Amen.
We all do. Amen.
We owe our lives to everyone. I want to call out to Prince Charles right now, who's got COVID-19, and you may be getting over it, sir. Wonderful, fearless leader of us all, and I bless you for it, not condemning you at all. But I tell you this, when you are king and you get through this, or if your sons are king and you get through this, I would hope that you build a better world based on the concept that everyone in your realm is just as valuable as you are, sir. That's what I would hope, that's what I would beg of you, and that's what I would insist of you. As a member of your realm, that's what I would ask. Sorry, that's...
And I'll second that, being the other person in the UK.
Thank you, sir.
To the powerful and influential in America, I have a scathing rebuke. Quit thinking only about yourself, your family, and your friends. Because the blood is on your hands for the people that you're not willing to help, especially in a time like this.
Yeah. And in a time after this.
Exactly.
Heather, do you want to?
Yeah.
Either we get better as a nation, as a world, as people who live in this world together. Either we carry on as a world, not just a country, a person, a world. Or this place is never going to get better. It's going to go downhill and it's going to get worse than what it is right now. We want something better, not worse.
Yeah. Can you guys post the link somewhere? Sean, can you post the YouTube link on Facebook and on wherever anyone is open, because I've got one listener right now, which in theory might be me as I'm monitoring it, or it might be Heather as she's looking at it, probably, because it.
I've got it.
Because I know this might be heard by a few people when we finish the recording, and that's beautiful. But it would be nice if some people were actually listening and give a damn. And the trouble is that we can't do that without getting a rating, without climbing up the statistics of YouTube. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So just put us out. I've contacted everybody I know and told them about the link. So it's the best I can do, really.
I've done the same.
Thank you, Heather. Stuart, can you do the same, please?
Yes, I shall.
I've posted the link in the Skype, so you can copy it from the Skype and post it around.
Yeah.
I believe it's in our chat. Somewhere there. There it is. There. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it gets dark, and in the morning it gets light. But I just hope we can build a better world, and that's what we're hoping for, right, guys?
Yeah, we need to move out of the darkness and move into the light.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just.
We do indeed.
I think we all, as Kennedy said, we all breathe the same air, and right now that air is important to everyone, including the people fighting for life. So, with that in mind, we need to protect that air. I mean, if this was a nuclear fallout, I can only bear to imagine, and we can thank God that it's not. But we need to protect ourselves, our families, for the future, and hope, and build that hope. Yeah. You can hear the silence as we're all.
I'm sorry, I'm just posting something to YouTube.
That's fine. Good. Carry on. We are the voice of the people who are affected. I mean, Heather, you have a good story to tell actually about being negative of it, but at least it was was just explain that experience. It might help people listening to this at some point.
Okay, so a couple days, well, actually, I think it was like a week ago.
Yeah.
I was running a fever. I wasn't feeling good. We called the doctor. The doctor called me in, and I took the test. Took 3 days to come back. Oh my God, that was literally the worst time of my life. Going to the hospital, you have more sick people who want to be tested, who can't be tested because we don't have enough testing in the United States to do so. Okay, so they're only taking the people that are considered high risk. Okay, but I waited 3 days. My test was negative. And I also, on a happy note, that I mentioned that if you guys watched the previous one, I mentioned that my son's friend was in the hospital and on a ventilator. He is no longer on the ventilator, and he is slowly improving.
So there is hope here, for us all. And again, thank you to the doctors, the nurses, and everyone involved supporting you and your family through that. Heather.
Yes.
We are here in hope, but we are here for hope beyond COVID-19. This is not about, thank God it's over, let's all go back to our lives the way they were. Because if that's what we think, I think we need to question that very philosophy of who we are as a people, as a world, as a humanity. Ronald Reagan said many years ago, I'm old enough to remember Ronald Reagan, and it shows my age, but anyway, I was only a child at the time, so I can get away with it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nancy, if we have a problem. But anyway, I won't do impressions. It's not good. Because then I'll be doing Trump impressions, and that won't be good for anybody. Don't start me off. Don't start me off. But Ronald Reagan said, if we were faced with a threat from an outside world or something beyond our human, would bring us together. And I think COVID-19 has shown Ronald Reagan to be 100% true. Are you okay, Heather?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, just okay. Die quietly, will you? 'Cause no, you're good. You're good. God bless you. It's good. But yeah, does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, I would say another thing that brings hope, what we're doing right now. I mean, the fact that people can stay in their homes and still communicate, that is a good thing, because, you know, back in the times of the plague, obviously they couldn't do this.
Yeah.
And yet we can all keep in touch with one another and not infect each other by doing it. So that brings hope in itself, that we live in this time now where this is possible and testing is possible.
Yep. It's an irony,
You know,
Sean. I'm just going to read one line from. Sorry, Stuart, to interrupt you. I apologise. You're saying
Okay.
you're doing fantastic, and I'll come back to it in a minute. But something that's just come up on the tip of my tongue here.
Yeah.
That a line from Lamentations 4. This will be going out to my Jewish counterparts. Many people may not know, but they may know if they listen to number 1, program 1, that I'm Jewish by my mother's side, third generation English by definition. And I just want to reach out to my fellow men in New York, particularly, which is the epicenter of the States, and just read 2 lines which may be relevant to you. Lamentations 4, and it's verse 4 through to sort of 5. So I'm just going to read that. The nursing infant's tongue clings to the roof of his mouth for thirst. The children ask for bread, but no one gives it to them. Those who used to eat delicacies are desolate in the streets. Those were brought up in purple embrace trash heaps. Amen. That's kind of brought a silence to the room. I'm sorry about that, guys. It is touching.
Yeah. Excuse me.
So I'll add a little funny to this.
Yep.
So the joke is, why did the kids start eating the puzzle on Christmas?
I don't know. Why did they start eating puzzle at Christmas?
Because their uncle said it was a piece of cake.
Wow. That's good. This is good. Keep the jokes going. This is fun. And no Helen Keller jokes. Just warning Sean there for a minute there. I've heard them all.
No, I wasn't even thinking it.
And no one else wants to hear them. Believe me. And no Trump jokes from me, I suppose.
Well, you know, I don't think it really benefits anybody if we go and personally attack any political
I agree.
people in the world right now.
I agree.
It's not going to make any difference in the end. The politicians are getting it just as much as you know, your average
Joe.
nurse would.
Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to step away for about a minute, so
That's
I'm
fine.
going to mute myself.
Okay, that's fine, Sean. You do what you need to do. That's fine. We all have to eat. You see, we all have to get on with life and do what we're going to do, and that's the way it is. So, if you feel like you want to tell a joke, just tell a joke and make sure it's in some good taste at least. Like the cake, I suppose.
What more tasty than the jigsaw puzzle?
Yeah.
Hey Dave,
Yes.
what sort of birthday food do ghosts prefer?
I don't know what sort of birthday food do ghosts prefer.
Ice cream cake.
Wow. Well, I don't know whether to laugh or cry at that one, Heather, to be frank. I'm working on it. Okay.
As Dracula would say, that sucks.
Yeah. Wow.
Just so everybody knows, hold on. Just so everybody knows, I am not coming up with these jokes on my own. Okay, I'm not.
Are you reading them
I
from a
have
book
five.
now? Yeah.
I have 5 kids. Go
Alright.
figure.
I don't want to know what other jokes the kids come up with. We know what they're like these days. Jeez, I remember what I was like.
Some of them are not. Some of them are not made for air. Just saying.
I'd like to take a moment
He's back.
to let everybody who may or may not be listening know that while we are being serious in our nature today, this will not always be the nature of our program. We're going to attempt to make this a show that evolves as the world's situations demand for it.
Human culture show. That's what it is, isn't it? By definition.
Yeah, pretty much. And there will be moments of levity, perhaps even complete months of levity coming out of our channel.
Does that mean we have to levitate? Oh, just
no. Levity means humor.
Oh, okay. Well, you can still feel levitated when you're laughing, so it works, right?
I suppose.
Okay.
Your spirit is uplifted.
There you go. No, carry on. Sorry.
As a part of that, I urge everybody in the world to keep a glimmer of hope in your eye through this crisis. Yep. And not to downplay the misfortune of people who have already lost lives due to this.
Yeah.
Be blessed in the fact that you are still here. And you will see pain and suffering through the end of your days. But pain and suffering only exist in contrast to joy and happiness.
That's for sure. We can build a better world, and we can learn from our crisis that we're in, and just by sticking together and realizing that everyone is valued, I'll say hello to someone I happen to know. I won't mention it by name, but thank you for listening anyway, because you know who you are, and we appreciate it. Yeah. This is going live out across YouTube, and it's an effort to just make people laugh and realize that although we're all cooped up in our houses, it's all pretty good. Should I repost that thing I posted earlier? Because that little picture, does that make people laugh?
Which one? The
one
squirrel or?
Well, both, I suppose. But the one lying down was pretty funny, right?
Yeah. I think so.
All right, so I'm just going to post this for the sake of. Let's see what's going on. Here we go. Get it on the screen here. So this is a transition, obviously, between last year and this year. Kind of, we're all told to stay at home, and if you were home last year, you would be a lazy bastard, and if you're at home this year, you're a responsible adult. So funny how times change. Forgive me for my humor.
Not at all. Not at all. It's okay, Dave. We needed it in these times.
Sure is.
It's as they say, laughter is the best medicine.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
And it's free. Nobody's charging you for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's it. Laughter certainly is certainly free, and we should be better.
Unless you're going to a comedy club.
Well, yeah. Even then, it's not the ridiculous medical bill that you lot get.
Wow.
Absolutely.
No words. All right. So we're going to do. I've got another one to post here when I find it. Let me see. Just just keep talking and say something because you can't just sit here waiting for the silence.
One thing I actually really like at the moment, um, over here we've got two types of hospital. We've got the NHS, which if your national insurance is paid in, um, you're entitled to free treatment, and then we've got private patients hospitals, and they've dropped that. Everyone is now welcome everywhere instead of two classes where the private patients get a better supposedly get a better service than the NHS.
Yes, I think it's superb. The country's doing this. Sorry, no, I shouldn't do that impression from Prince Charles. I apologize.
Yeah,
Well,
you know,
you know, due to the extremity and ferocity of the medical uh, crisis the world is under right now, a lot of hospitals in the United States have gone to the measure of postponing elective surgeries because the more people you have in one place, regardless of how long they are together, the more likely it is that this will spread.
that's right.
Spread is
Besides,
what will spread? The love and the harmony and the hope will spread as well as COVID-19, right?
I hope so.
Let's hope that too. I want to share one more thing then. So this is none of the joke, just to lighten up the spirit, if you don't mind. Just because. So here we go. I'm going to just post this around. There's another one. It's pretty funny. So before COVID-19, the squirrel would say, "This is my space. Keep away." And after COVID-19, I said 6 feet. I'll blow your nuts to Pittsburgh. Sorry, I just couldn't resist. I couldn't resist making that. I thought it was so funny. I just had to put it together.
Gentlemen,
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna step away because I actually do have to feed my kids. Yeah,
Okay, you do?
and I'll be
Oh.
back in a little bit.
Well,
Yeah, laws say I have to feed them, so yeah, I guess I really do have to feed them.
Okay. All right.
you know, I could really go for a break right about now, and I know it's getting on over in jolly old England. So, I know it's been a short show. This has been a little over an hour's
Stuart
time.
and I are happy to stay on. Are we happy to stay on, Stu?
Yeah, we're happy to stay
Stuart
on.
and I are happy to stay on, so you guys feel free to do what you need to do and come back, and that's cool with us.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'm not gonna end the call. I'm just gonna mute it.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, no, feel free,
I
Sean.
will do the same.
Okay, that's grand. Yeah, feel free.
I'll see you guys shortly.
Okay, no worries.
Yes.
No worries. It's down to you and me to hold the fort, buddy. But
It is indeed. It is indeed.
do you know, it's funny actually. It's funny being here in England and having the lockdown that we have. I'm finding it really, really strange because it's like being in a movie.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Hey, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah,
I forgot to say
I thought
something.
you were feeding the kid. Go on, yeah.
Peace, love, and happiness. Peace out.
Woo! There you go.
Yeah, definitely.
Peace, love, and happiness. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what it should be all about.
Damn right, that's what it's
This-
all about. I'm gonna.
This world should run on that, I think, personally.
You're damn right.
Peace, love, happiness,
Yeah, that's very, very true.
caring for one another, rather than the way that it has been.
Absolutely.
But that's my personal opinion.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. You know, I think that the world needs a bit of joy and this, that, and the other. And sometimes people are serious beyond the scope of necessity, and the world's almost gone to shit, but we're still hanging in. You know.
Yeah.
That's human irony for you to just hang in when everything's going to pot, you know. And we'll get through this. I mean, you know, there's been worse times, and that's for sure. So even if it looks bleak, we are all going to get through this. And when we do get through this, we just have to be a bit more open to everybody's life, I suppose, and appreciate people a bit more.
I've just got a message from Sean. I've just got to say something. Sean, I don't know how to. I'm sorry. So I can't.
What's
Anyway, carry on.
what's
He
that?
wants me to administrate Discord in his absence.
Oh, okay. No, he doesn't. No, I'll figure it. If anybody
I haven't
jumps
had
on there,
training yet.
that's okay. No worries. Yeah. See, we're just getting on with this stuff. And I'm gonna find another funny thing to post up, because I just think my humor is a bit strange, but there we go. That's the way it is. You'll get used to it.
I've known you long enough, so I know your humour.
You know me long enough, huh?
Yeah,
All right. All right. So I'm gonna have a bit of fun with the world right now. Again, you have to forgive me for my humor, but to all the vegans out there, who are kind of worrying about the animals, I just want to say the animals are more safer than we are, which is some kind of irony. And this is just a little bit of fun for anyone who wants a bit of fun. If you want to look at the screen, because I sure as hell ain't going to read that one out, or I'll have hate mail coming through. And I think we'll get rid of that one pretty quick. All right.
yeah, you're a bad. But if people can't take a bit of humour,
It's just a joke. I mean, to hell with it. Really.
Yeah.
I met a chap in the grocery store this morning. That was a flipping experience too. When I went to the grocery store.
tell me about it.
Okay, so we're in complete lockdown here in England. So obviously, only one person's allowed in now. And so me and my son went down, and obviously we're not both allowed in. So Aaron had to wait. My son had to wait, a distance away from me, like somewhere over the other end of the car park, and I was allowed in as one person, and you had to stay. You got to stay 2 meters apart, 6 feet between people. And there's people in there with masks on, and some without masks on, and you're kind of thinking, okay, who do I kind of, he's been at that aisle, and they've been at that aisle, and she's been there, and you're thinking, okay, it gets to you a bit. It does get to you a bit. It's like, it's got a strange impact on how you think. So some people were kind of stretching over, almost avoiding the 6 feet rule, and they were like stretching over to get the cheese or the milk. And I was like, okay, you dudes just carry on. I'm cool. I'll just wait here until you're all done. If it takes a week, I'll be here for a week. I wasn't gonna stress any.
Yeah.
Kind of wait my turn, which is an irony. Which is an irony, because when I wait in the post office, I'm waiting for I'm waiting for number 2 to come up. And how many damn people are there going to be at this post office? Why haven't you got more staff? But right now, I was pretty grateful for them.
Yeah, the times that I've gone to the local shops, I live in a village for the listeners, and I've just got local shops, and once a fortnight I go and shop in Daventry, which is 4.5 miles away from my village. And when I go to the shops, we've got the 2 meter rule, obviously, but it was, our chemist is really, really small, and I went in there, and 2 meter rule's not easy. You're thinking, I hope not too many people step in. This was just before they started restricting people actually coming into the shop, but they had already got masks on and gloves on, and I'm thinking, where can I get some of them? And all right, I'm in a chemist, but I don't, as far as I understand, we can't buy them because they're needed at the front line of the hospitals and stuff. And I'm thinking, I really, really should have some of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm being as careful as I can with when giving the money across, so not to touch their hands and vice versa. And when they're holding the package to give me, they're holding one side, I'm holding the other, and we're being very careful. It's an experience.
It is an
But
experience.
then I'm thinking, you know, rather than just walk home slowly like I normally would, get home as quickly as I can.
Oh,
You know?
I'm kind of thinking, you know, I'm kind of thinking when we're all through this and we all get to 90 something, you know, because I'm only 42, so, or 43 this year. But when you get to 90 something, I'm sort of thinking if when my sons have children, which could be inevitable at some point, and the grandkids coming to me, did you live it through, Grandpa? Did you live it through? And I'm going to be like, oh yes, I was there when it happened, and it was, you know,
Yeah, I can.
like it did with a war, you know what I mean? It can be really
I was
strange.
going to say, I can imagine us being the coat. I've got it.
The what?
I could. Oh, I can't say the word now. The virus's name.
COVID, yeah, COVID-19.
Yeah, COVID-19 survivors, and will be sort of. I remember the days of COVID-19.
It's really strange. Yeah, and do we have a poppy day for this as well, or is it something else? Do we have
Perhaps everyone will be going around wearing sort of like, instead of poppies, symbols that look like the actual virus itself.
be bloody have, honestly. Apologise
With the words underneath it or above it, I survived.
Dude, that's not. No, let's okay.
Hey, look,
I'm
got
trying
to bring
move on.
you.
What?
Got to bring humor.
Listen, mate, you're as bad as James Bond, you know, where he electrocutes someone in the bath and just says, shocking, positively shocking. I mean, you're almost as bad as that, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's move on then if I'm too much. But I just hope our viewers, if we've got any...
Heather, help.
Good luck.
Where are you, you know? Bail me out here. Throw me a freaking line. Throw me a freaking bone already. Yeah, it's going to change the world, I think, for a good thing.
I seriously hope so. On a serious note, I seriously hope this will make people care about one another more, value one another more, help one another more, and stop being so selfish. You know, stop making money. It's all about money. Start making it more about each other. I mean, money's got its place, but it should be second.
Yeah, I just think, you know, we need to think about the value of people in society, because yes, money does have a place, but equally, if you're going to pay, you know, a doctor more than a street cleaner, you have to analyse whether those two are both doing the same sort of job at two ends of society. They're both contributing and saving lives. They're both working on health at two ends of the spectrum. And I mean, right now, if neither of those were in place, we'd be in a bloody mess darker than we're in. And I think that sort of mechanic needs to be written into our infrastructure in some way. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, if the lorry drivers aren't delivering the food, then the managers of the, you know, or the people working in the food shops, you know, have nothing to sell. And if there's nothing to sell, there's nothing for us to buy. Nothing for us to buy, there's nothing for us to eat. And it's all, we're all part of the same chain.
We're all part of one big machine, and any cog that breaks, the rest of it can't do its job.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for years and years and years, long before we were born, you know, the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, going right back, you know, there's been this sort of stale, stagnant sort of viewpoint about it. And I think, you know, unfortunately, we've caused our own mess, dare I say.
I'm more important than you because I went to college and university that kind of attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's not saying to knock that out of the equation completely, because it's important that we do those things. It's important that we appreciate people's accolades or people's,
Don't get me wrong, that wasn't where I was going. I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm just saying that those that have valued themselves higher and not realised the value of those that haven't done that need to wake up and smell the coffee,
Well, yeah.
because we're all as valuable.
Exactly. I mean, there was a story in the newspaper. In the press. Sorry, in the press, on the news itself. I'll label it as Sky News if anybody wants any reference. And there was a story on there about Prince Charles, and bless him, future King of England. He's as right to everything as we all have. And I know the aristocratic viewpoint has not been that for centuries. Douay mon droit, God gives me right, or whatever it is. But God gives right, or however you want to interpret the phrase. But the point is that when the hospitals were opened up, when the private hospitals were opened up out of pure desperation, if you want to put it that way, Prince Charles went in, as a sufferer unfortunately with the disease, and so he went in. And some people were complaining, does he get better treatment than the rest of us, or does he get to the queue more than the rest of us? And that's an interesting way of looking at it, because we're all human. At the end of the day, we all breathe the same air, as Kennedy said. We all, bleed the same way. We all have the same emotions. And so, my hope for any future king of England, whoever that may be, or for anyone in society that wants to get us through this as a great commander or a great leader, needs to really think about the value of everyone in society, quite literally.
I would extend that to the world, leaders of the world, all the people that are influential in the world.
It's an unfortunate event that is bestowed upon us. In fact, it's a horrific event. But one of the major ironies of this event is that nobody. I'm not scared to go out the house. I don't want to put warmongering and scaremongering in, but I am cautious when I go out the house, as to who I'm going to meet. It's a genuine sort of awareness, if you like. It's a very conscious thing, and obviously as a father, a single dad in my case, I'm very conscious of the fact that if I bring something home, these guys, mine aren't very young now, that's true, but I still don't want to give them something where their lives cut short. I still have to think about that. So,
of course,
it's an element of that. And I can't really repeat enough how I feel about is the world going to click back to normal? Click of the red shoes, from Dorothy, and everything's going to be the way it was. There are going to be traumatized people all over the place, people who have lost mums and dads, people who have lost cousins and aunts and nephews and nieces, and people who have lost granddads and grandmothers and so on. Yeah, friends.
Yeah, and friends.
Whoever.
Yeah.
And we're all in that boat together, I would hope that this is not a Titanic, to put it bluntly. I don't want to see those with money, or those with better off, those who are able to sort of row away in the lifeboats, leaving everyone else to drown. I would hope that we've learnt from that philosophy. That's what I can say, really.
Well, I agree. I hope that we've all sort of learnt from that, grown up a bit, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the world is fantastic, and I think we should have a laugh. People are going to laugh about this. Comedians are going to laugh about this. There's already jokes going around, and we've said that. And people will always laugh about things to get over it. And there's a sense of humour there to do that. We do that as humans. We laugh about things. We joke about tragedy. We joke about people less fortunate than ourselves, but there's a difference between joking about it and thinking it, feeling it, and being it, I suppose. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, joking about it makes people be able to cope with it. And making people feel it in a negative way, well, everybody knows what that does. So, yes, there will be comedians making jokes about it, and I hope they make people laugh. But at the same time, there is a serious side to this, where there are lessons to be learned, and I just hope that the world learns it. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
just how precious life is, how precious people are, and how everyone should be valued.
Yeah.
Because whether they play a small part or a big part, they they make this world go round, and they make other people better off. I mean, just saying hello to somebody as you pass them in the street, you can make their day if there's somebody who very rarely gets spoken to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Life is about people, and I think we sometimes forget that. Right now, I mean, there are children at home driving their parents crazy. Um, there are people at home looking after ill parents or ill friends or family. There are people that are waiting for their test results to come through, on nerve endings, biting their nails, whatever, Um,
Oh, excuse me.
are you well? Are you well? Don't pass the
Yeah,
virus. Don't pass the virus through the computer. I don't want it. Just saying.
I don't think I've got the virus.
Yeah, you're not going to pass it down the computer, right? We're doing a computer virus as well. No,
No.
it's just my humor.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I was about to say, oh, shall I, shall I?
You bad man. You bad man, Mr. Dog.
No, I'll let you off. But I won't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. No. But I mean, no. In all seriousness, I mean, if anybody wants to, join in the conversation, there's nobody listening really. It's a bit of a shame. Well, I say that. There's three people listening as far as I can tell. So thank you.
Yes,
Two
thank you.
are, or four watching. We've gone up by one number. Yay! Hey there. Hi. Hello. Yes. Great.
Welcome the fourth person. Well, welcome all four of you.
Welcome.
Well,
So yeah, the crazy bunch are back, as before. But hopefully this time you can hear us a bit better. We've fixed some technical problems, right, Stu?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Before it seemed as if you were just talking to yourself, but
Yeah.
no, you weren't.
I think some people thought I had a psychotic episode. He's gone mad. He's ranting to himself. But yeah, that's not quite the case. But yeah, I mean, we really are trying to just cheer everybody up and have a bit of fun and make a difference with things. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So, you four listeners, if you like what you hear, one, join in. Two, tell other people to come on here and hear us.
Absolutely.
All is welcome to the party.
Wait, it's a party? Yeah.
Well, it'll be a party when everyone's here, won't it? Because they'll all have the opportunity to come on and say what they want to say.
Yeah, we have two counterparts in the United States, but they've obviously taken a break to do stuff with this 6-hour gap that exists back there. So, Heather, if you're listening, you can at least say hello, and Sean, if you're listening, you can at least say hello too. If you guys are around. Yeah.
No, Heather's busy and Sean stepped out for a moment.
We're all alone, so they've left us alone, just when you need friends.
It's hope for you, isn't it?
They've left a spell,
Yeah.
But I'd like to hear what people are experiencing. type to us or whatever, and if you want to come on air, just let us know. And we can just have a chat and fun and whatever, you know. We're not bothered. We're crazy enough to invite any fool up. What? Pardon?
Tell us how you're coping in your household. Tell us what inventive ideas you've come up with to occupy your kids and your time.
Yeah. That could be fun. So I'm kind of hearing constant streaming from my two boys. You know, they're on the PS4 quite a bit, and when the youngest one's not doing his schoolwork, or me trying to persuade him to do his schoolwork, but he's doing a pretty good job at this stage. You know, it's he's always on there streaming something. You know,
Yeah.
so,
Well, right now, my partner, she's watching, I think, Netflix it's on her phone, but she's watching a film.
we have 5 watching. The numbers are going up. That's what we want to see.
Oh, welcome another 2 people on top of the people.
That's one person, Stu. Can you
Yep.
just count them? Did you take your shoes and socks off, or are you going to manage to count from?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Welcome one.
Hold on a minute.
It's been a long day.
Yeah. Long as all 5 people are 6 feet apart, we're doing well. Just saying.
Yeah.
There are 6 people. There you go. So all 6 people need to be 6 feet apart. There you go. And if we have a 7th person, just keep your distance. Keep your distance. Remember to share the toilet roll with love.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to. Huh?
On, you'd like to what?
I'd like to have toilet roll printed with money on it.
You can actually get that. That is a thing.
Can you buy toilet roll with money on it?
You can buy toilet roll as yeah, no. Obviously not real notes, unfortunately. But you can buy it.
Okay. Yeah. Heather, we
My
need.
son would like to say hi.
Yay! Say hi.
He is tuned in.
Yay!
He is on our Discord page as well,
Yay!
and he would like to say hi.
Say hi. Say hi.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing? You good?
Hello.
He asked if you were good.
Are you good?
He said, yeah, he's got a mouthful of chips.
That's cool. Mum's fed him well. That's good. What's your?
Like, say hi.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm 4 and 9 years old.
Woo! Yay!
Raja.
Roger. Yay!
Hello.
Oh, let go of me, dude. Thank you. Sorry.
Welcome back, Heather. Welcome
Kids
back.
are all up in my business right now.
That's
Sorry
good.
about that.
Let's have it. Where's he gone? He ran off. He's going to say hi.
Yeah.
He ran off. The 13-year-old. How old was the other one?
Oh, my 13-year-old son's right here. Hold on. Hello.
Hey. So what's your take on all this? I mean, the world has changed drastically for you, and obviously you've got feelings and thoughts.
Hold on. Let me get my headset, and you can talk to him.
Brilliant.
Hello.
Hey, hiya. Welcome. Welcome to a new world. So what's your
Thank
Yes,
you.
well,
what's your take on all this? I mean, obviously you got your own thoughts and feelings and stuff. How are you seeing it all? Can you hear me? Okay.
Say that one more time, please.
Yeah, I said how are you sort of, you know, how are you processing, taking it? How are you perceiving it or understanding it all? I mean, it's obviously a big thing a big shift from what was to what is. I mean, how are you?
I mean, yeah, it's killing people. Like,
Yeah. But there's still hope. You know, we're still
yeah,
you know,
I
and
know.
obviously-
Yeah.
But I mean,
If they can just give the vaccine to people that don't have it right now, it would help them from not getting it in the past.
absolutely, yeah. absolutely. And I mean, are you in contact with any friends through Skype or through phone or stuff or whatever?
Yeah, I do. I am.
Cool, cool. And are they all well? Your friends?
Yeah, they are.
Cool, cool, cool. Great stuff. Great stuff. As you know, your mum and I, and obviously Stuart and Sean, we've been putting this show together to just sort of bring a bit of hope, a bit of fun, and try to bring some humanity back to back to our lives. Um, but in the future, you're going to remember this. It's going to be taught in all
Yeah.
the schools, and you might be a teacher one day or something, and you never know.
No,
And say you lived through it.
Shh. Say again. Say again.
I was thinking about being a Marine.
A Marine.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, we're going to need you. We're going to need you. Excellent. Fantastic. That's really, really good. Well, I'm glad you tuned in, and it's good that people can hear you and know that you have a voice and say how you feel.
How are you dealing with not being able to go out?
Huh?
How are you dealing
How-
with how are you dealing with not being able to go out?
I mean, I just play games on my phone, try to get through the day.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of annoying not being able to go out. I can imagine.
Yeah, it really is.
I know how Mum feels, but I'm not going to ask Mum. No, but it's cool. Yeah, so yeah, it's awesome. So we're going to just try and run this show for as long as we can, really, and just keep it alive. And say if anybody else wants to talk, and feel free to chat with us. You're more than welcome to stay on if Mum wants to talk, whatever. But we're all good.
Hey, Mama.
Hey.
Hey, Mom wants to talk to you now.
Yep, that's cool. That's cool. Welcome back, Mum.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you.
Hey, awesome. Keep the faith.
Yes. I'm gonna mute while he's screaming.
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry. It's life. We don't mind. That's Roger, isn't it? Roger screaming. Yeah. Yeah. So we're all in this together. We're all in the same boat. We're all rowing for the shore. And I think we can get there. I really do.
Yep. One thing I'm really pleased about is the fact that when you start, we've been listening to different news reports, and people are really starting to listen. They're staying at home, and that's a good thing, because that is really saving lives just by doing that. So thank you everybody who is listening to the advice and is staying at home. And only going out when they really need to.
Yeah, I mean that's a must. I mean that's the thing that I guess a lot of countries really haven't grasped yet. The shame of it is that if people did that sooner, if there was some global sort of warning, and people had just gone with the flow, a lot of this probably could have been avoided. To be frank with you, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yes.
I'm not an expert, but I'm just judging it as our overall picture here.
Avoided or at least slowed down
Considerably.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of disappointed with the world in a way that when China first announced what was going on, there were still planes flying in other countries. There were still shops open in other countries. And yes, everyone was thinking about their economy or, how we're going to cope and buy time. But right now, a lot of the lives that are gone could have been saved if we just globally thought, sod it, let's just think about humans. I don't want to be, that's the way I feel.
Yeah.
Heather, does that sound sensible?
Yes, it does. Very much so.
Yeah, Teresa. Someone from Teresa. What's this say? Listening, I find what you're talking about interesting, although I wish the volume could be higher. on my phone. Well, unfortunately, that's part of the technology, and not a lot I can do about that. But we can try and shout for you. See if that works.
Thank you, Teresa, for your comment. Anyway, glad you're finding it interesting.
I can try and turn
If
some
you
stuff
want
up.
to,
I can.
if you want to add anything to the conversation, do feel free to, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, if you want to say something or think something, feel free to say. It's like that Donahue show. Do you remember that Donahue show years ago? You want to talk about it? Talk about it. You used to give them the microphone. Remember that?
You can also join us on Discord.
Yeah, do you have the link for that?
No, I do not.
Okay, hang on. Let me,
But I know I'm monitoring it. So if anybody wants to say something, I'm watching if they want to join us on Discord.
Okay, I have to post a link so people know where to join us. And our man who gives the link away, Sean, is elsewhere occupied. So you have to give me a minute to figure it out. Work through like 10 screens. We'll be okay. Yeah. So that's a silence. You hear that silence?
Yeah, I had to move away from the mic just for a moment. Sorry about that.
So how many listeners have we got? I'm gonna go back to seeing. We have four watching. We have 8 subscribers, and we only started literally just the other day, right? We only posted one video the other day, about 4 days ago. I think it was
5.
5.
But yeah.
5 days ago.
Yeah.
So,
And like we've already said last time, we had technical issues where it sounded like you were talking to yourself, Dave. So that's pretty good.
I think the recording that I kept managed to have at least 2 of us on there. I think.
Oh.
But
Well. On.
There were some recordings before that obviously, I was almost psychotic, so I had to turn them off because the Invisible Man was having a conversation with me, and it's not good. Heather, you've gone all quiet back there. What's it like in the States?
Well, apparently you can do anything you want still.
Okay.
They're not. Okay, Maryland has put down restrictions that if you're caught not doing something essential, if you're just walking the streets, you're going to jail. It's a misdemeanor. Nobody else here has done that yet.
You're in what, Illinois?
Yes, I am.
But you're not in Maryland, you're in somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm in Illinois, but I'm waiting for our governor to do it because if you go from here to like laundromat, a laundromat is considered essential. You have to be able to have clean clothes because if you don't have clean clothes, the virus actually can be carried on your clothes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you go from here to the laundromat, which is about 6 blocks. I guarantee you're going to see 100 people out.
Jesus.
Well, over here in England, we're allowed to go out for essential shopping, and then we must return home. And anyone who is a key worker, people that do the jobs that keep the shops running, the hospital staff, all the essential jobs, they're allowed out to do those jobs. But the rest of the time, you must stay at home. Otherwise, if you go out and you've got no good reason to be out, the first time you're caught, it's £60 for being caught. The second time, it's 120. And if it carries on and you keep defying it, it could be jail.
Certainly could be, yeah.
What I understand in
Maryland. Sorry, say that again, Heather.
From what I understand in Maryland, which is one of the states here, it's on the East Coast. If you're caught out the first time, you're looking at either up to a year in jail or $5,000 fine.
I mean, the best deterrent really is to say you're going to get COVID-19 and there's a possibility you may die. I mean, surely that's enough to deter people. But, that's just my reasoning.
I would agree, except for when your president is downplaying everything and the only people taking it serious are the governors.
Well, no,
It kind of looks like, okay, well,
okay.
I'm talking about here in the United States.
Okay, well, we're going to be up and running in 3 days. I'm just saying it. All right, 3 days. Forget the 3 weeks, 3 days we're going to aim for. Yeah, we're going to aim for that. Even though there's thousands dying, we're going to aim for that. Is that what...
Although, I will let, if anybody here is from America, I will let them know that President Trump has extended the social distancing. It's not a mandatory, it's only if your state has it issued already. But they are trying to get all states to go to April 30th of social distancing. And then by April 30th, we should all be back to work. I don't know that happening, but that is his goal.
President Trump wants everybody in the States back to work by April 30th.
Yes.
Okay, I think the rest of the world should be on panic mode right now.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's only just to save his precious economy. I mean, that's ridiculous. Life's at stake here.
Okay, so I'm not going to blame anybody for this virus, okay?
Yep.
If you go back and you look at China's pattern, which is where, we're not sure if it started there, but they're the first ones to get hit by it, okay?
Yeah, first ones.
You go back and look at their pattern. They started in January. This is March, which is 3 months later, and they still have their cases going up. They're not stopping. So how are we supposed to stop it if we aren't doing anything to prevent it?
You see, Heather, we're the United States, and we have the ability to stop anything because we're great power in the world. Something like that it says anyway. I can't get the accent right, so it's kind of screwed. Anyway, sorry about that. Just
so it's okay. So basically, it becomes how much is your life worth?
Yeah, well, that's what's terrible about it. How much is our life worth? I'm shocked that in 2020 we are even contemplating how much our life is worth. In that sense, I mean, I know that life insurance is high, but we need to start thinking about the value of humanity in the modern world, and I think this hopefully will do it. But I mean, maybe Trump needs to get the virus. Maybe Trump needs to get the damn thing to actually experience some stuff. Maybe he needs to get it really bad and be near death. I'm just putting it out there. Maybe he needs, you know what I mean, Stu? I'm not being funny, but
he needs to experience what we do.
Sorry, say again, Heather.
He needs to experience what we're going through.
He needs to experience what we're going through. Yeah, exactly. You're breaking
That's
up there.
what I was going to say. That was. She took the words from my mouth. Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, Heather.
I mean, so
great minds think alike.
Yep. So they tell.
We've lost somebody watching, but that's okay. Whoever you are, you probably got to do something, go somewhere. That's good. Yeah, I mean, in theory, we just hope that when this recording is over, people will listen to this recording and they'll gain something from what we've said. And who knows how viral the ideas may go. But we really do need to wake up, smell the coffee, and realize that we're all parts of the same machine. And I mean, that's it.
Yeah. One thing I was going to continue saying earlier when we're on about, what happens in this country and what happens in America. Maryland, yes, they've got that, but the other states can make their choices. Well, the thing that we've got here in the UK is there's the government of the UK, and what the government of the UK says pretty much happens for everywhere on the UK. I mean, yes, Scotland have got a government as well, but that government answers to Boris Johnson, who is our current Prime Minister in London. So this lockdown is everywhere, basically, not just different states making different choices. In a way, that's a good thing because, you know, we can take the precautions everywhere.
Just to put some emphasis on this, I mean, look, if you look at the live map, I'm happy to post a link in here. Anyone who wants to see the live map, I'm going to do this this way around if I can. Let me see here. I'll post it into the. Hang on, give me a second. I'm going to post it into the YouTube link there. So that's a link to the live map of, not to frighten anybody or scare anybody, but that is the reality of what we are dealing with. There are 160,020 total confirmed cases, you know, in the USA alone here. You need to think about that. You know, there are, is that 100,000? Is it? Or is that totally confirmed? Is that confirmed around the world? No, it's not. There are. Is that 700? Is it Italy? I'm bringing up there. Heather, can you see what I'm doing here? Is that Heather? That's Italy. Let's see what it's going to tell us. Waiting for the live thing to catch up. I mean, the point is, there's a lot of cases around the world. You can't have one president, one UTA out of synchronization with the rest of the world for the sake of protecting personal interest. If that's the world we're in, you know, I mean, Italy's 101,739 totally confirmed cases. Now, yes, we can argue that there are 14,620 totally recovered as I speak, according to what's official, and there are 11,591 as I speak, you know, deaths. That's a lot of people died in Italy that could have been saved had the infrastructure been different. You know, on a global scale, that's Italy. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, America needs a wake-up call. It really needs a wake-up call, I think.
It does.
Okay, so back to what Stuart was saying.
Yep.
Okay, our president can put a complete lockdown on everything, but he doesn't want to do that. Okay, he thinks that the states doing it by themselves is enough. He keeps giving hope that this is going to be over and over and over, and he doesn't want to put nothing on lockdown. He doesn't want to do anything. He did close down our borders to Mexico and our borders to Canada, but we can still go state to state. It doesn't help anything. So therefore, it's going to keep spreading, and it's going to get worse before it gets better here. A lot worse.
Yeah,
but here's the good news. The people in America, if you're listening, if you stay indoors and follow the rules yourself rather than waiting for the state to do it, there's the hope that we can beat this.
I know that we're not professionals in a position of power to give that advice, but you know, we are in the UK, and that's me and Stuart at least, and we're living this reality right now, and we know that our government did their best to withhold and stand out and protect and all the rest of it, you know, but we're in a situation where we've just followed Italy's lead in the end, or China's lead in the end, or you know, France's lead in the end, or whatever. So I mean, holding out only delays how long the virus will get to you. It doesn't stop it coming, right? I mean, that's the truth of it. So the best way is wash your hands, as they've been saying, and avoid the spread. You know, stay isolated as much as possible.
Yeah, except only go out when you really have to.
Just add in here. Use caution store. From what I understand, it could be, you can also get it by picking up stuff. So if you go to the store, if you have a cough or whatnot or whatever, don't pick it up, look at it, put it back down, and walk away. Unless you're gonna get it, just don't touch it. Just to be on the safe side to protect everyone. It's kind of courtesy, just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to join us up here on the call, you feel free to give us a shout and you can have your voice heard. Not a problem at all. We're an open channel. We actually intended to just have a general human culture show before COVID kicked off, and we were planning it. But obviously now it's here. I guess it runs into human culture anyway, and that's what we're experiencing. So if anybody just wants to join us on air, please feel free to just say, "Hey, pick me," and we're more than welcome to have you up here. Equally, you can post anything you want to post. That's good too. And tell your friends, tell your friends what we're doing, because we're just trying to really get through the hysteria, get through the stupidity, get through the nonsense, get through, we can look at figures all day long. I look at figures all day long on the news, but I do it because it helps me get a clearer picture of what the hell's going on here, and to try and understand and bring some relief and hope to people, because if we stand together, we can get through this. And when we do get through this, we collectively need to build a better world. Whether we take our placards out on the streets for better health, whether we take our placards on the street for better care, whatever we decide to do, but this is in our hands, If that's...
Amen.
We can build community if, so tell your friends, give us your comments, give us your ideas and views, tell us what you're doing right now to relieve the boredom, so that if someone else hasn't thought of that and they want to try it, they can. Tell us how you're keeping your family, your friends, and yourself safe.
Yeah, exactly. We really are just, bringing hope. That's what we're doing. And everyone is valued. And again, let's just shout out to the doctors and the nurses and the people putting their lives on the line. As you said, Heather, the truck drivers and everybody delivering the food and everybody stocking the shelves and everybody just on the front line out there, making sure that those of us that are in quarantine to help the effort at least are able to survive as well.
There is one more. There are more people to thank, and that is the people that watch the nurses and the doctors and the front end workers' children, so that they could go out and risk their lives to protect everybody else and save lives. I'd also like to say thank you to them too, because they're kind of important. Without them, we wouldn't have nurses or doctors, or because they'd be at home watching their own kids.
When I was in the store the other day, I saw a member of the fire crew. I knew who he was because he'd got the badge on his top, and I think he was either going to work or coming back from work. So thanks to them as well, and the ambulance crews. The fire brigade. They've got to go into people's homes when there's a fire, and not only deal with the fire, but also potentially get the virus themselves. So thanks to them too.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge to make life go round, I suppose, for those kind of people. Is it just me, or has crime suddenly, I wouldn't say eliminated, but gone down a bit, or is it just me?
You know what I think it is? I don't think it's went down. I don't think anybody's changing that course quite yet. What I think it is it's just being covered up by something bigger, something more important right now.
Yeah. I think possibly it has gone down a bit because more people are staying at home. But, as you said, Heather, this is covering it up as well because it's not reported.
I'm not hearing police cars, increase in terms of emergency 999 calls. One can imagine. I'm not hearing the police effort get bigger or greater in this calamity. So, I am ignorant to this question. I'm therefore wondering just if obviously war has ceased in Iran.
Yeah.
And hell, that
Maybe the crime rate has come down,
I don't know.
and I'm just wrong.
I don't know, but if it
No, I think you're partially right. I think the numbers have come down, but the ones that are still happening are not being reported because of it. I can tell you something though here in the UK, something that is happening that I've heard, and it's really quite horrible. There's cases now where there's people hanging outside of shops asking people why they're there and then telling them that they've not got a good enough reason to be out and trying to find them. And then when people are going, hang on, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right, and they phone the emergency services, they're running. They're scammers, basically.
Yeah,
because they're trying to find them £50 for being out.
There's a lot of people, Stuart, that are trying to make money out of it, and it's really sad. It really is sad that that's all people can think about. It's a horrific thing that we've been inbred, we've been conditioned, we've been. I've said it all, really, haven't I?
Yeah. We have been conditioned to think that money has to be involved in everything, and it's really, really, really important. More important than people. Yeah. In some cases.
I mean, when I was a child, I never imagined anything like this at all. When I was young, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, hell, 1 week ago, I never could you imagine something like this. And although you look at the movies and you go, hey, yeah, wow, wouldn't that be different? Those who have seen Walking Dead, or those who have watched Contagion, or those who have watched, Outbreak, or whatever it is, I mean, you kind of look at it and go, well, wasn't that an interesting movie?
Well, I have often thought to myself how lucky I am to live in a part of the world that hasn't got war going on in my country at the moment. It's been 70 years since the last one, and how lucky I am. I just hope I never have to experience it. But war, that is. But then this, I didn't expect this in a million years.
Certainly something different, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been on here for roughly, how long have we been on here for? Getting on about 2 hours. I don't know how long we've been on here. You said started streaming 2 hours ago. Do you want to? Do you want to end it shortly, or what do you want to do, Heather? Do you want to keep going with it, or start a new stream, or whatever?
We can do either or. It's up to you guys. I'm trying to find the whole server link so I can show you, and I'm having difficulties. My son is actually helping me.
Yay! Awesome. I mean, on the thing it says we're here 24/7 until the crisis is averted, but I'm not sure that's quite working out the way I intended.
Yeah.
So we're going to figure that out. We could actually, what we could do is every 2 hours we could reset the stream. In theory, that could work. You see, we're just putting this thing together as we go. But that's kind of the way it is, really.
I actually have a question. Why don't we, or actually a suggestion, why don't we take like a 15-20 minute break so we can go do what we need to do, like go potty or get a drink, or...
Yeah, okay. And end the stream in between and just Do that.
Yeah. That way, everybody has a chance to go get a drink. We will be back, though, guys. Don't run
Yeah,
away.
don't go anywhere. Come, keep
Yeah,
an eye out for us. And we'll be back.
yeah, I can put the be right back logo on if I can find it in the midst of everything. You know, just saying. Hang loose. Hang loose. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to work on that side of things and figure out what's happening. And my computer doesn't want to play ball, which is just typical. Houston, we have a problem. Why doesn't technology work when you want it to? I'm just asking the question. Okay. It's not working, damn it. Okay, we'll just leave it the way it is, but we will be right back, and we'll see you shortly in about 15 minutes. Feel free to keep chatting because we're still staying up. The channel's still staying up, so feel free to talk in the box, chat box, and I'll respond.